study material is of
Welcome, dear learners. This is a session on advertising concepts. I am Shikha Rai from the School of Journalism and New Media Studies. You would be aware that we run programs related to PGJMC, MAJMC, and many other which belong to various fields of media. In all these fields, advertising has an important say. Because everywhere, wherever there is some communication, wherever there is some message which has been created and has to be communicated to the larger audiences, it is important that we learn to know the tools through which we can do that. Have you ever seen whichever road you cross through, or whenever you're going on a highway, whenever you're traveling over a far distance, you see across the road many hoardings. These hoardings are shouting at you, giving you some messages which are greatly related to some brand or some service, some product somewhere. Have you also listened to radio and intermittent to the music, you have come across certain jingles, certain announcements, some nuggets of information? That's radio. And whenever you're listening to primetime news or whenever you're watching your favorite teleserials, in between there is an ad break. Now, ad break sells you everything from instant noodles to toothpaste to shoes to education services, whatnot. And whenever you are on some social media platform, have you ever noticed the ads popping up? Have you ever seen those messages which are related to it and related somehow to all those aspects that you have been delving into, that you have recently been searching about? What is all of this? All this is advertising. Day in and day out, you're surrounded by advertisements of various kinds and through multiple media. So if I ask you as to on the last working day that you had, or let us assume yesterday, how many ads did you notice? Either visually, or you heard about them, or you scrolled through them, or they just popped up and you had shut them out. How many such advertisements? I'm sure you will not be able to count them. Because the more the information overload, the more the advertisements and the messages that are communicated to us through the ads. All the more reason why we must understand, not only as media learners or as media students, but also as general viewers of media and general dwellers of society, as netizens, as to what exactly is advertising and what is it doing to us. So that is what we're going to talk about in this session today, and I hope you will enjoy this. So this session is going to talk about what advertising is, what are its objectives, both specific as well as broad objectives. Why should we advertise, or why does a brand advertise? And then what is the difference between advertising and publicity and propaganda? Also, what are the advantages and limitations of advertising from the point of view of the brand, the manufacturer, as well as from the point of view of the consumer. So let us begin with this. If I define advertising, I will say that advertising is basically a creative and a commercial message which is aimed at selling a product or service. So it is non-personal form of communication. This is the kind of communication which is not targeted at one person only. It is talking to multitudes of audiences all at once. Just imagine if you look at the hoarding on the roadside, how many people during the day must have come across that hoarding, must have, seen that hoarding or read the words on it. Maybe some of them might have found it useful as well, while the others might just have passed it. So this is a non-personal kind of a communication. Also, it is a paid form of communication, because when we talk about advertising, we know that all the companies whatsoever decide upon a large ad spend, which they set up for, on an annual basis. And this ad spend is managed by an entire team which is devoted to communicating about the brand and its products to all the public in general. So this is very much a paid form of communication. It is about products and services. It is about ideas. It is about how best can we promote our goods and services. So it is talking about all those aspects of advertising and marketing, all those tools, all those plans, all those strategies which help us talk to the audiences who we do not personally know. And yet we have to sell our products or services to them. Then it is always done by an identified sponsor. So you will never see that an ad spend has been set by a company and the company is advertising about a product without talking about its brand. So you will never see an advertisement of just a toothpaste. You will see an advertisement of a Colgate toothpaste, a Pepsodent toothpaste, or any other Ayurvedic toothpaste. So the brand is always there, which means that this is an identified sponsor. Then, of course, as we all know, since we have to reach multitudes of audiences, since we have to talk to so many people all at once, the best way of doing it is media, both traditional as well as new media. And why are we doing all this? We're doing this because the idea is to influence people's behavior. Okay. And why do we need to influence people's behaviors? Because we are in a competitive market, because there are many other products and services just like ours that are already there in the market. And the idea is to one up the competition. The idea is to make sure that people prefer your brand of the same product as compared to others in the market. So you're trying to influence the consumer and influence the consumer in a manner so as to induce a purchase. So you're trying to directly affect the purchase decision of the consumer. The better you are at this game of influencing the purchase decisions of the audiences, the better an advertiser you are. So the next thing that I'm going to talk about right now is why advertise. Why should a brand advertise for itself? Why should we talk about a brand? The first thing is because it completes the economic cycle. Now, what is this economic cycle? We all know that all markets invariably depend upon demand and supply. The greater the demand, the supply must meet that demand, and that is how this economic circle becomes complete. So it's only through advertising that people will be able to know about a product. Okay? So production is incomplete without consumption. Imagine a scenario where there are companies, there are manufacturers who keep producing, many goods and services, and there is nobody to consume them. The economic cycle does not complete. It is not reaching the people who it has to reach, right? So consumption is dependent upon awareness of a product or service in the market. And because it is so much dependent on awareness of this product, that is why advertising is the best form of reaching out to the consumers, of telling them and letting them know about the product or service which is existing in the market. The next thing is that this gap is being filled by advertising, and it helps in drawing attention. Only when when you see a hoarding or when you see an ad in a newspaper, something popping up on your social media platform, would you be aware that this brand also exists. And the more you see it, the greater is your recall value. So if I ask you, name any health drink that comes to your mind, maybe you will be able to pinpoint at one particular brand. Why? Because you've seen those ads more often, or maybe you're using that product. So that is what helps us in not just drawing attention, but also in building a top-of-mind recall. Top-of-mind recall is when you're able to, like I just said, if I ask you about the health drink that you remember best, the first name that comes to your head is what we call top-of-mind recall. Then, There are certain general objectives of advertising. If you've understood what advertising is and why should we advertise, this should come easy to you. There are some basic ideas, some basic functions that an advertisement meets. One is to inform, the other is to persuade, and the third is to remind. When I say to inform, you have to send forth the information in the market that there is a new toothpaste, that there is a new mobile phone, that there are certain upgraded features in a mobile phone, that we have 5G now. Yeah. So all these things, or there is a better cure of cancer today. You have to make people aware. So advertisement serves that one purpose of information. The second thing it does is to persuade, which is the most important function, because information is only the first step. It doesn't help an advertiser if only you be informed about a cure of cancer which is available in the market today. It helps when you also understand that this is the company, this company X has created a cure which is available as a generic medicine for you to fight a disease like cancer. So persuasion is again an important aspect of advertising. So what does persuasion do? It creates a demand for that brand, right? When everybody understands that this Ayurvedic toothpaste is better than the toothpaste that you use which has fluoride in it and which directly affects your teeth, the demand for Ayurvedic or herbal or some such thing, alternative product, will increase in the market. And this is the aspect of persuasion that advertising builds in. The third thing is to remind. Remind about what? Remind about the brand. Hey, we too exist. There are so many brands of a certain product. There are so many brands of a certain service. Say, for example, hotel service. So if I ask you which is the hotel that you remember staying in your last holiday, you would be able to maybe pinpoint. Why? Because you have experienced that hotel. But the idea that every time you visit that place, you take the same hotel is what is the role of advertising. And this advertising is happening in multiple ways. It is not just telling you that, hey, look, we exist. It is also telling you that it is beneficial if you come and stay at our property as compared to the others. Right? So the idea of reminding about a brand is also a function of advertising. Then next, if we talk about the specific objectives of advertising, the first that comes to my mind is to induce trial. We know that today, the world is shifting, at least in India, people are shifting to eating more millets as compared to the regular grains, wheat and rice that we've always eaten. Why? Because millets is supposed to be more healthy. So if you have to make people try, you are a company that produces millet products. What do you want people to do? You want people to try your product, and compare it to the wheat and rice that they usually eat. So you are trying to induce trial, and this is one specific objective of advertising. How are you doing it? Maybe you're at a mall, you're asking people to come try it for free. Maybe you are, when the morning newspaper comes and you have created say for example, a herbal tea, you send some pouches of herbal tea, paste it to the newspaper for people to try for free. And if they like it, they will go buy it, right? So the idea of inducing trial also comes through this. Then the other way of making a person try a new product could be that you buy millets from us and we will give you the best recipes so that children at home are not going to desist from tasting it or are not going to dislike its taste, so on and so forth. So there can be many motivations, many encouragements that you can provide to the customer who you do not personally know. But you do understand that, in case this person tries it, your sales will rise. The second thing is to intensify the usage. The idea to get a new target segment to use the product is very, very essential, because the greater the usage, the more the business volume, the more the money the advertiser earns, the company earns. So intensifying of usage is also an important function of advertising. Then the third thing is sustaining preference. The fact that there are so many toothpastes in the market does not desist you from buying that one product which is herbal in nature, which is made in India and which you prefer because you think it is better for the health of your teeth as compared to the others in the market. So sustenance of that preference or the fact that my grandparents used to read a certain brand of newspaper. My father used to read the same. The fact that this newspaper has been able to keep up with my preferences, and it has made sure that I also continue to read the same newspaper, is the sustenance of preference. The fourth thing is confirmation of image. The image is very precious in the world of advertising and marketing. Once you have a positive image, the entire energy is spent on retaining that positivity of the image and to, make it better than before, to see to it that brand loyalty stays. All those things happen through confirmation of image. And this positive image is called, the retention of this positive image is again another important function of advertising. So I'm only giving the very basic ideas of advertising, especially for those even general viewers of this video, who just for you to understand what advertising is and how it functions. The next thing it does is it changes habits, right? So all the people who have been using non-smartphones are quickly, coming up to start using the smartphones. So the smartphone usage has to increase, and this is the change of habit. Why? Because once the smartphone use has increased, there is internet on that smartphone, and people are hooked to their devices for longer hours as compared to once upon a time. So this is the change of habit of buying and the change of habit of consumption. And of course, lots of businesses thrive on that. Another important aspect of advertising is that it is able to build a line of acceptance. When we say a line of acceptance, it is basically for the entire range of the brands. So say, for example, we know a company, say, for example, Tata. And we know that Tata first was into automobiles. You've seen Tata trucks. But today, Tata is also marketing medicines. So the acceptance of Tata in the society amongst the consumers will come easily, precisely because Tata has been in the market for a very long time, and we have seen that it has grown consistently. It has been a credible company. It has not very often got involved in any sort of controversies, and there has been no negative perception against the company. So what does that indicate? That they have been able to build a line of acceptance, and this line of acceptance continues to be for the entire range of brands. This too is a function of advertising. Now let us look at the difference between advertising and publicity and propaganda. First things first, when we talk about information, we know that advertising basically gives non-personal information as compared to publicity, which can be personal or non-personal, and propaganda essentially is used for political warfare. Whenever you are planning something against your opposition, these propaganda can be more in terms of lies as well, but it will be something which is very sensual. It will be something which is also sentimental, and it will quickly attract your attention. So it is not entirely based on truth, but it is definitely used as either personal or non-personal form of information. Then the second thing is transaction. Now, transaction as far as advertising goes is more commercial in nature, and it may not be commercial in terms of publicity. But when we talk about propaganda, it is aimed at changing the beliefs and values of people. So that is how transaction is different when we are talking about propaganda. It is able to change the beliefs, and precisely that's the reason why it makes use of lies. Everything is not factual when we talk about propaganda. And the idea is either to, dent the opposition's image or to create a better flowery picture for yourself. So that's propaganda. The third thing is the source. When advertising is concerned, the source is always known. We know who this advertisement is coming from. But for publicity and propaganda, it may not be known. So that's one thing. And then when we talk about the form of this communication, advertising essentially is a paid form of communication. But publicity as well as propaganda may not always be paid. Okay. So the idea is that all advertising is publicity, but all publicity may not be advertising. Also, all advertising may not be propaganda. So there is a fine line of distinction between all the three terms, and I hope you're clear with this now? The next thing that I'm going to discuss is the advantages of advertising for a brand. And we will proceed from looking at a brand to looking at it for the consumer. So when we talk about the advantages of advertising for a brand, the first and the foremost thing is that it is able to create a primary demand in the market, okay, which results in increased sales. So say, for example, morning newspaper comes to your house and then you find 2 sachets of green tea in it. You try it early in the morning, you find it good, what happens? The next time you're out to purchase your grocery, you will remember the name of the brand and you might get a small packet of it. So what has it been able to do? It has been able to drive some positive sales out of you, okay? And another thing is, in case the customer likes the product, might go for a repeat purchase. So that is another aspect to it. The second thing is that post initial sales, if advertising continues, it ensures a steady demand for the product, right? So you keep reiterating that this product is in the market. You have only pushed the green tea sachets through the morning newspaper. Next, a purchase decision gets made. And when will it get made? It is not necessary that it will be in the mind of the consumer after a month when one goes for grocery shopping. Nevertheless, if there is more advertisement that one sees about a product, one might just order it or one might just buy it. So post initial sales, consistent advertisement helps you in keeping your demand of the product more steady. The third aspect is, which is very commonsensical, I should say, increased demand means raised sales. And raised sales means better turnover for the company. So this is one major advantage of advertising for a brand. And then steady advertisement budget also gets you consumer goodwill. When we are talking about consumer goodwill, how is it that the person starts having faith, building a faith in you, your company, your product? It is through consistent communication with the audiences, the consumer, the customer, right? And this steady advertisement begets you that kind of a goodwill. Then, if the demand in the market is steady, the dealers are interested in keeping or warehousing the brand. So the better the demand, the more it gets pushed. Okay? The retailers and the wholesalers are also interested in pushing a new brand because it earns them better profit. The next thing is that it helps the salespeople as maximum consumers are aware of the brand. So when you already know, say for example, you're out to purchase a consumer durable, let us assume a refrigerator or an AC. You already know that there is this brand X whose AC or whose refrigerator you would prefer. Then it helps the salespeople because they don't have to pitch in the product to you. They don't have to push it, forth at the customer. And then once a brand is established, consumers can sell directly without employing any middlemen. What happens? Once you have checked on a brand, once you have used a certain brand, after that, the consumers can straight away, you know that all the companies these days have their digital arms in terms of their websites, in terms of their online digital arms. What happens? We don't always wait to go to the grocer and buy something. We don't always wait to go to a certain, shop for consumer durables and then buy something. We also order online. So what are you doing in the process? You are completely getting rid of all the middlemen that there are. And how does it help? It helps the consumer as well as the manufacturer because you don't have to share your profits with the middlemen, which makes things easier and better for you. So there are no middlemen and one can sell directly to the consumer. Also, there are certain advantages of advertising for the consumers. Let us delve into this now. The first is that they inform about the product availability. However wonderful your product may be, but if there is no information about the availability of this product in the market, there is no point in this. So there has to be certain kind of advertising for any new brand. Then comparison of brands is also possible. And this comparison of brands is possible because you're able to build in, your own knowledge about different brands that are available in the market and then compare them. Then, of course, if the competition goes up, everybody pushes for better quality. And prices may be reduced if the middlemen are excluded. So if well informed, it also saves time while making a purchase decision for the consumer. Now let us quickly look at the limitations of advertising. One thing is that bad quality cannot help you sell well. Maybe you can fool a person once, but not every time. Secondly, you can only persuade through your communications, through your advertising. You cannot compel the audience to make a purchase decision. And the third part is that there is no scope for feedback, because through mass media, you're communicating your message to all the hordes of people who are out there, and there is no scope of getting a feedback on your communication. And of course, advertising, because it exaggerates, it is also less believable. As far as the consumers are concerned, there can be, times when there can be a wrong purchase or unnecessary purchase, and advertising cost gets added to a product whenever you're buying it. So this can also be misleading at times. Consumers may not be aware of the brand monopoly in the market. So there can be a smaller brand which must be much better, but you're not aware of it. So sometimes it can also be demeaning. Those are the advantages and disadvantages of advertising, both for the brands and consumers. I do hope that you stand benefited by this information, and it has helped you build some basic knowledge about advertising and its concepts. Happy learning, everybody. Thanks for joining in. Thank you.